Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Josephine here, and today I want to share a book review with you. I want to talk about Gunmetal Gods by Zamil Akhtar, which is a self-published epic fantasy story inspired by Arabian Nights, Game of Thrones, and Lovecraft, which sounds super amazing, but I'm telling you that much. Yes, the book is great, but man, do I have a hard time wrapping my head around it and getting into words what I'm thinking about this book and explaining that. I'm actually recording this review now for the third time because I really want to do it justice and talk about it the right way and explain all the amazingness that is part of this book. So this story is set in a huge land with a lot of countries, a lot of cultures, and the two main empires have subsumed the majority of those countries into their own, and those two empires are really the focal point of the story. One side is led by an imperator and has more like a Roman style feel to it. The other one has more that Middle Eastern feel and is led by a Shah. So both sides have their own belief system, and as you can imagine, right, both sides think of that the other side is wrong and that they need to be cleansed and they need to be told the right way. So there's really a lot of conflict just raiding around the corner. Each belief system has their own gods and archangels, and they're so outlandish that the description of them is going to blow your mind. The author definitely put a lot of effort into the religion part and explaining how, all the gods and archangels are set up and work together. In the first book, the story plays mainly in Kostani, which is a big city or also seen as the Holy City, and currently the capital of the Shah's realm. You'll spend the majority of the story actually in the city and in the surrounding areas, so you really get to know that particular world, how it is set up. You see all the details of the city and the surrounding world, and it really helps bringing the land to life. The story itself is told from two point of views, Micah and Keva, and Micah belongs to the side of the imperator and Keva obviously belongs to the side of the Shah. So through those both point of views, you really get to know each side and their motives, their religion, etc. What's also really interesting is because you get the point of view of Keva and Micah, you also learn more about their motivating factors. Both deal with a loss and both deal with it very differently. Keva, for example, just wants to drown his sorrows. He wants to be left alone. His prime time is long over. He was a war hero back then, but now he's fat, old, and slow. And he definitely doesn't want to deal with anything that goes on in the world, politics, etc. Micah, on the other hand, uses his grave as a fuel for his anger because he became the leader of the Imperator's army and is basically responsible for increasing the size of the Imperator's empire. So if you haven't figured that out by now, war is coming, and that's what the book is about. The author is very bleak, very straightforward. There are no unicorns and rainbows there. It's just all blood, gore, and devastation. And in addition, of course, political intrigue, backstabbing, flawed characters that just try to make the right decisions. And then you have sprinkled in a little bit of magic and guns. What I really liked about this book is the mix of inspiration he is drawing from. You can definitely see the Arabian Nights and Game of Thrones influence. And while I hate saying this Game of Thrones piece because it's way too often used as a marketing trick, in this case, it is really true. So there are a lot of things that you can see that are coming from a Game of Thrones inspiration. And then in addition to it, something that I find very unique and interesting is that Lovecraft Cthulhu influence. As you can see, I have my Cthulhu t-shirt on, so it's perfect for this video. And those three storylines together, all mixed into a blender, shook up nicely, are creating an incredible world. So Zamil did a good job of not making it a copycat, but using those, making it his own, and creating something really imaginative out of it. What I also really like, and that is kind of an influence from that Arabian Nights, Middle Eastern folklore type thing, is everything is over the top. We defeated the army of 10,000, or we defeated our enemy with 10,000 soldiers, and we were only 100, and there was a lot of blood and sweat involved, but we got it done. So it's really that kind of thing, and I loved it because it makes The story is so unique, and it's definitely nothing like anything I've read before. In addition, the writing style is really beautiful. I love how he writes sentences and how he mixes words together to, again, create something really unique. And I actually wanted to share one quick sentence from the book so I can give you an idea of what I mean with that. My adopted daughter wore the same yellow dress as when she'd answered the door, except now she held a shamshi and high guard above her head. The blade was thicker than both her arms. Her stance seemed to compress the ferocity of an army into one teenage girl, and her menacing glare the anger of 100 forsaken daughters. And this is just one example. I mean, the entire book is structured in that way, and I really enjoyed that. It really makes it into something that stands out from, the same old fantasy stories. The other thing that I really enjoyed in his story is the discussion about how different people deal with loss in a very different manner and how they use that to justify their actions. So he did a really good job in explaining where Micah and Keva are coming from, how people deal with grief in general, especially with grief because of the loss of loved ones, and how they're using it to justify their efforts. What I didn't like as much about the book is actually the big world. While I think it is great that Zamil tried to create something epic from a size perspective, from a world, country, culture perspective, I felt that a lot of the countries and cultures that he mentioned are actually not super relevant for this first story, and actually, at least for me, caused some confusion because I was trying to remember all of these country names and all of those different directions on where the countries are, just for them to realize at the end that I didn't even really need it for the majority of the book. So, I mean, maybe it comes up in book 2 or book 3 that he's still writing. I obviously haven't read book 2 that is already available quite yet. So I will update that once I read the book and say, man, okay, it was good that I knew all of this already because it was important for book 2. But for book 1, I found it a bit overwhelming. It also added to a little bit of a clunky feel, especially in the beginning. So this is a debut novel, and you can see the writing progress as the book progresses. So as I said, at the beginning, it's a bit clunky, sometimes a bit too fast-paced, but it gets a lot better as the book moves on, and his writing style becomes a lot more fluent as the book progresses. So as a final note, I want to add some sort of disclaimer. I already talked about how graphic the book is when it comes to war scenes, but there is another scene in here that I've tried to talk about now so many times, and no matter how I say it, it sounds weird or I'm spoiling something. So let's just say if you were able to deal with a specific brother and sister situation in Game of Thrones, you will be able to deal with that situation in here, because in this book, it's a lot less awkward than in Game of Thrones. So I just wanted to throw that out there real quickly. To summarize, I really enjoyed this epic and imaginative story with the potential for an amazing continuation in book 2. Again, as I said, he currently planned a trilogy. He's in the middle of writing book 3, but he kind of kept it open for further books. So it's probably, depending on how good it goes, he will continue writing this story. It is definitely worth the read. Again, I have not read anything like it because of all the influences from those other areas that make it into such an impressive story. So I highly recommend this book. Well, unless you can't deal with a lot of gore and things like intestines hanging out of your body and stuff like that, then you might want to skip this. But if you're good and if you like those type of fantasy stories, give it a go. It's awesome. I had such a hard time wrapping my head around it because there's just so much going on, and I mean this in a very positive way. And it's really hard for me still, even a week later after I finished this book, it's still hard for me to really put it into words what this book meant for me and what it did to me and how much it messed with my head and how much my imagination was really driving on 100% and trying to come up with the looks of all the things he described. It was just such a wild ride, and I had the best time with it. So definitely go check it out. I'm linking it down in the description so you can find it right away. I will very soon read book 2 and then let you know what I think about that as well. Alrighty, so I hope you enjoyed this video. Definitely give it a thumbs up if you liked it. I'd love to hear from you in the comments as well. Have you read it? Are you interested in reading it? Is there maybe a reason why you haven't picked it up yet? Let me know, and maybe I can convince you otherwise if this video hasn't done this already. And then I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you soon with my next video. Bye!